Today I want to talk about the full moon eclipse that we're going to have now on Friday, May 5th, in a nakshatra called Vishakha in the sign of Libra. Before I begin, I also want to say I will be talking about the sidereal or astronomical placements as used in Vedic astrology. If you're new to this channel, hi! I'm Roseanna. I'm a Vedic astrologer talking about new moon and full moon updates and planetary transits, so if you're interested in that, you can subscribe below. You can also find me over on Instagram at Starlight Inspiration, where I post new astrology content every week. So this full moon eclipse will be in the nakshatra called Vishakha. And Vishakha is the nakshatra that bridges the sign of Libra into Scorpio. And if you think about the soul's journey in the zodiac, the stage between Libra and Scorpio is where, because in Libra we're centered around, it's a sign of material happiness as well as our relationships. So, and Scorpio is the sign of, deep emotional, very transformational energy, and also of facing illusions, facing our fears. And so when the soul passes through the intersection between these signs, that's the stage where we're sort of made aware that not everything falls under our control. We're not able to control everything. Especially, we're not able to control our partner or our relationships. And we're sort of realizing and coming to terms with our own vulnerability here. So that can be, especially in the Libra part of, because this full moon will be in the Libra part of Vishakha, where we're still more oriented toward the material gains, and by material gains I'm also including relationships. Everything that deals more to pertains more to our materialistic or worldly desires. Everything that is found, everything that we seek outside of ourselves, in the pursuit of internal happiness, where we think that something out here will make me feel content and at peace inside, which is an illusion, of course. And that's the stage between these two signs where we're sort of coming to terms a bit with the fact that, oh shit, this is an illusion. I'm not really able to control anything, or, so much is outside of my control. And I'm really realizing my own vulnerability. So, but as I said, this full moon will be in the part of Vishakha that is more oriented toward the material aspects and the material gains, you could say. And if you look at the planetary ruler for Vishakha, which is Jupiter, but what I wanted to say was that's Jupiter, but if you look at the sign that we're in, which is Libra, the planetary ruler is Venus. So this creates a sort of influence of the Jupiterian and Venusian energies. So because Jupiter is oriented toward the meaning of life and finding our inspiration and faith and hope, and finding our true meaning, our teachings, and our philosophy of life, Whereas Venus is more centered on material or physical experiences, because Venus is the planet that really wants to that desire physical experiences of everything, that wants to sort of experience everything through our bodily senses. So, and this can be a really fantastic spiritual motivation as well, because Venus wants us to experience our spirituality through our physical senses, through a physical experience. And if you think about it, that can really be a huge motivating factor, and what really can make you, because when you have such a, everybody's, no, not everybody, but a lot of you have probably had this sort of experience where you just get this really physical experience of the divine, of your, of your spirituality. And so this can be a really great motivation. But usually what also happens is that Venus gets sort of caught up in the material aspects of our world and our life, and sort of there really takes a lot of effort with Venus to sort of elevate Venus desires from the material to the spiritual experiences of the physical senses, okay? So because that's more on Jupiter's turf, so, and which is what happens more when you cross the bridge between Libra and into Scorpio. But we're on the Libra side of Vishakha, so we're still a little bit more oriented toward the material choice, or the material gains, and let's say material satisfaction. It's not ultimately what gives us satisfaction, but momentarily satisfaction, So because the lunar eclipse, the previous solar eclipse we had was in Aries, and now we're in Libra. So this brings to light the polarity between the self and our relationships, which is the original sort of imprints on the signs, or what they pertain to. So the solar eclipse maybe brought to light all of those instances where we feel like we're not willing to compromise, with what we want, our desires, the mission that we perceive we are here to fulfill, the path that we want to walk, and perhaps also surfaced any instance where we're not really content with the path that we are on, or maybe we desire a change in our direction. And now this lunar eclipse in Libra sort of brings to light the polarity of that. So this can deal more with where we need to still be able to compromise on some things if we want to have lasting, happy relationships. We also need the ability to compromise in order to keep the relationship peace, but where the lunar eclipse can also surface our true feelings about where we are willing or not to compromise. And the solar eclipse may be surfaced also where we feel like either we feel like we are not following our desired path, or the path that we wish we were on, but also where we feel like we maybe be facing some a change in our desires. It might have the eclipses might have brought out these inner desires, perhaps something that we haven't even been aware of, or that we haven't been able to communicate even to our partner. So this could be an important time for that as well, to do what we can to keep our channels of communications open and flowing between us and our partner, to really communicate our desires. Every nakshatra is also linked with a specific symbol, and in the case of Vishakha, it's either an archway. I'm thinking like the Arc de Triomphe, but and also it's a potter's wheel. So these symbols show that the potential for success that can be found within this nakshatra, the potential for material success in our projects and in our workings. And the potter's wheel really shows the patience and dedication and the continuous effort in manifesting our desires, to eventually reach success. And this is why there's a link to success, and especially when in regards to material aspects of life, and I'm including, of course, then relationships in that, but because it can be a sign where we have much both mental prowess and drive to accomplish our goals with this nakshatra. So, and every nakshatra is also linked with a specific deity or a cosmic influence. And Vishakha is really special in this case because there are two deities linked to this nakshatra, which are Indra and Agni. So Indra is the demon slayer and the god of all gods, and is associated with lightning. And then there's Agni, which is the fire or the flame or the god of fire, usually. And both of these deities actually show the potential for fiery ambition and transformation that is possible within this nakshatra. Agni is often also referred to as the communicator between earth and sky, because when you perform, sacrificial acts or ceremonies, or okay, I'm sorry if this was sort of dark, but you offer things to the fire. So the fire is an element of communicating between the earth and the sky, or the heavens, and it shows the inherent transformational power that can be found here. And Indra was there's a story about how Indra was defeated a demon who had stolen all of the water from earth, and he slayed the demon from within and restored all the water. And in doing so, he was rewarded by Vishnu and elevated to his status was elevated to then the god of gods. But the fame and success sort of went to his head, and his ego was boasted his ego, if you will. So he kind of, in the end, he fell from grace due to his pride. So there's a reminder in this as well to detach a bit from the material side of life, and also to remember that everything is, I'm losing my words, not terminal, but perishable. So there's a lesson to remain humble and keep our ego in check with this nakshatra as well. So this lunar eclipse will be the end of this season's eclipse cycle. So in this period, the lunar eclipse will be the sort of complementary event to the solar eclipse that we had 2 weeks ago. And so this can really provide us with a chance to sort of catch up, emotionally speaking, because there has been a lot of intense, active, and even transformational energy going on. And this can sort of be the chance for our emotions to catch up, and for us to find our inner bearings and find our inner compass. And if there has been a lot of, new ideas or new thoughts, desires, whatever, rising for you, this will sort of provide a chance to get a lay of the land, speaking from your emotions. Because sometimes it can be hard to get clarity when we're in the middle of something. We often need a little time to let everything sort of fall down and to integrate and get more clarity. And this is also, I think, heightened by the fact that Mercury is, all the while this is happening, he has been turning retrograde and will remain retrograde until May 15th, I believe, if I'm remembering my dates correctly. So this can sort of also create the feeling of taking pause and wanting to go within and to, just take pause and reflect more. And I don't know about you, but it sort of has felt like we've been in the lull between two waves or something, where there was this intense rise in energy, and now we're sort of in that in-between place between those two peaks in intense energy. So, but it can be a good reminder that it's okay for things to take some time, that we don't have to, because it's easy to, especially with the Aries energy, it's very easy to get impatient and restless because we want everything to happen now, this instant, But even so, it's good to, there's really no need to rush things. It's okay to take some time and really ground everything internally before taking further action, and to be clear about what it is that we really want. So Mercury also helps this process, I believe. And there's also a chance, because the lunar eclipse now can also really ground our emotional attitudes toward any changes or any shifts in our desires that we may have been through. So it can be easier to get in touch with our intuition again and our inner knowing what it is that we really want to do or what we really want to pursue moving forward. I also think it's interesting that Vishakha, which is called the branched one, is really, if you think about a branch of a tree branching out into many in many different directions, this can sort of signify both the presence of many possible directions that you could go, or many possible qualities, abilities. But it can also signify where you're sort of standing in front of a crossroads, or where your path is sort of splitting and you don't know which direction to go. So I think also, if the solar eclipse brought into light where we want to move in a different direction, or we're getting more in touch with our true desires, that can sort of mean we're standing in front of this crossroads, and now can be a time to really sort of connect with what we want in our hearts, what are our emotions guide in all of this, our intuition, get more in touch with our intuition, so that it's easier to know as we're moving out of this eclipse season going forward, which route to sort of travel. And also because I don't know if I said this in my previous video, but the eclipses, they are the starting point of a cycle, you might even say. So, and they run on these 6-month cycles. So the next cycle of eclipses will be in October. So what has been surfaced for us during this eclipse will sort of be integrated and processed all the way until the fall. So it's not like oh, now's the eclipse and now everything is changing momentarily. It's not like that. It operates on these cycles. So this path that we're beginning to shift or change, or that can sort of be something to happen. What's the word? Eventually, over time, let's say. So this can also be a reminder to take it easy on yourself. There's no need to rush anything. Everything will happen in its own time. And yeah, I think that things will also naturally start to, and we will start to feel like we're gaining momentum and starting to move forward with everything once Mercury starts to move direct again. So right now we're still in this momentary pause in energy. So, but it can also be highly beneficial for us. So could be great to make use of that energy and really take the time to integrate everything thoroughly. As usual, I posted a bunch of questions in regards to the full moon eclipse on my blog, and I thought I'd share them here as well. So the questions I posted for this full moon was, am I ready to stand in my own true power, unafraid of what other people might think? Have I been compromising too much of my own desires in order to keep the peace in my relationship? How can I support myself in pursuing my true passion? And how can I create more balance between following my own path while all the while creating harmonious relationships? Before I go into each of the signs, I will just say I'm leaving the timestamps in the descriptions below, so you can click directly on your sign. And I would also like to say thank you for watching the video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like and share or subscribe to the channel. And if you want to read more about me or see my blog, you are welcome to visit starlightinspiration.com. And you can also find me over on Instagram at Starlight Inspiration, where I post new astrology content every week. So now I will start to go into each of the signs. So for Aries, the eclipse will happen in your 7th house of relationships. And the solar eclipse took place in your 1st house of the self, your individuality, and your path. So this eclipse cycle sort of highlights the polarity between your own path and what you desire, and keeping the peace in your relationship and your ability to compromise. And this lunar eclipse can sort of surface any instance where you feel like you don't want to compromise, or you're unwilling to compromise with certain things. But it can also be at the cost of your relationship happiness. And if you're not in a relationship, this could actually also deal with your ability to compromise with yourself, if you're following me here. So what I mean is that if you're sort of stepping over your own boundaries or pushing yourself too hard, maybe you're trying to do too much and your body is really calling you to, I want to rest, but you keep pushing on. So you're compromising your own limits, let's say. So, but this can be a good time to get in touch with your true feelings. So perhaps the solar eclipse surfaced a shift in your desires, or maybe you want to start a new path, or you're standing at the crossroads, perhaps unsure about which route to follow. But this lunar eclipse can bring to light your true emotions around all of this, and eventually also make things much more clear for you. But right now, we are in the middle of the intense energy still, and Mercury is still retrograde, so give it some time, but you will, I believe things will sort of start to fall into place for you, and you will intuitively know which way is the right one for you and which path you want to pursue. But also be sure to focus on your own needs a little bit, you know? Make some time for your own interests and your own passion projects moving forward. Whatever ignites your sense of passion, you know? For Taurus, this happens in your 6th house of health, daily routines, and of doing service. And the solar eclipse happened in your 12th house of isolation and deep emotions, and your dreams and your sleep, of course. So this may have been an emotionally intense time for you, and you may have been feeling a bit more restless than usual, or perhaps having had difficulty sleeping, or even having having a much more active dream life than usual. This could also be a good time to start a dream journal, actually, if you're interested in that, if you've been having lots of more vivid dreams or something. But it could also surface the lunar eclipse now in your 6th house of health, because the moon is here with K2. So K2 is this sort of negating influence. So it could surface those instances where perhaps you've been wanting to implement some new routines, either new spiritual routines or health-wise, but that you've had difficulty in maintaining, perhaps. So it could also show all of those cases or all of those instances where it's necessary for you to take care of your energy, you know, conserve your energy, or do things to promote your sense of health and vitality. And it could also heighten your need of rest and rejuvenation at this time. So if you've overstepped your own boundaries, you've pushed yourself too hard, worked too hard, and it could be coming into light for you now. If you need to sort of set new boundaries, or respect your boundaries more to preserve your energy. It could also be a good time for a dietary change, or a detox, or a cleanse, or something to support your health, basically. Yeah. For Gemini, the eclipse will happen in your 5th house of children, creativity, and your passion. And the solar eclipse happened in your 11th house of friendships and social circles and your community. So that might have been a time where you are in the process of having a change in your desire, perhaps, your desires. It could also be, the full moon eclipse could also be surfacing for you any instance where you feel like you've neglected to follow your desires, or allow yourself the space and time, or making the space and time to really pursue your passion. Because the 5th house also deals with what's your heart's true desires, what really makes you light up inside, that you feel is your, let's say, your passion project. So it could surface perhaps a longing to pursue your passion projects here. And it could also be a change in your desires in the larger sense, because the 11th house is also the house of our dreams and how we share our dreams with our world or our community. So you could also be going through changes in your community, or maybe a change in your social circles, or some new friendships entering. You are perhaps losing interest a bit in some of your relationships and gaining more interest in others, you know, going through some shifts and changes. But you might also get more clear on which of those relationships you are more willing to put your energy and your effort into. It could also, if you have children, it could also surface any instance where you feel like you haven't had enough time to focus on your relationship with your children. So that could also be surfacing now. For Cancer, this happens in your 4th house of home, emotions, and mother. And the solar eclipse took place in your 10th house of your career. So if the solar eclipse surfaced any desire you maybe have about making some changes in your work or your career, or, you know, finding yourself drawn toward a different path or a different career interest, the lunar eclipse could also help you to sort of emotionally get a sense of your attitudes towards this, where you might be more intuitively clear about what it is that you really want. So it could also be a time where you feel like the balance between your home life and your work life, maybe if that has been off, it will come more into light for you now, or you feel like you need to adjust your priorities, or even make changes in your home, wanting to spend more time by yourself even. But this might have been an emotionally intense time for you, and it could even be that you long for it, but it could be a great time to make some space, give yourself some breathing room just to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be like meditation or anything like that, but calm activities that are just for you, you know, to sort of let your emotional self catch up and to let your intuition come through a little bit more. Or maybe you have had a heightened intuition during this time as well. So for Leo, this takes place in your 3rd house of communication and close community and interests. And the solar eclipse happened in your 9th house of teachers and spirituality and your philosophy. So you might be going through some changes in the way you seek information, what sort of information you take in, and you might also be going through some changes in your spirituality, let's say, the path that you want to follow. This could be pertaining to your teachings or your life philosophy, let's say, your beliefs. So it could be a time where old teachings or old beliefs sort of fall by the wayside in order for you to step into something new. It could also be where you experience a change in your desires, the things that really interest you. You might be finding yourself going in an entirely different direction, or that you're feeling like you're standing at this crossroads when it comes to your teachings or your spirituality. And maybe a lot was surfaced for you during the solar eclipse. But the lunar eclipse now can sort of make your emotional attitudes toward all of this become a bit more clear eventually, and where you will intuitively know which way you want to take moving forward. For Virgo, The eclipse takes place in your second house of money and values, and the solar eclipse took place in your eighth house of deep emotions and transformation. So the solar eclipse could have been a very emotionally intense time where old patterns, old wounds, or old emotions was surfaced. And everything will sort of start to slowly fall into place with the lunar eclipse, where you will be more ready to let go of the old, let go of those old emotional wounds perhaps, or old behaviors. It could be something from your subconscious perhaps even, or transforming old insecurities. And this could also be pertaining to with Ketu and the moon in your second house, where you're sort of coming to grips with old patterns around financial security or material security. And sometimes we carry a lot of subconscious beliefs around all of those things. So there might be something around that surfacing for you at this time as well. And maybe you've become ready now to let go of limiting beliefs, or let go of old values that perhaps no longer resonate with you, perhaps even values that you've had since your childhood, but that no longer feel like you. So you are now ready to, like a snake sort of sheds skin, you know, you can sort of go through that process, but with those patterns. And it could still be quite an emotionally intense time, so perhaps allow yourself some, make some space, make some time for yourself to, you know, just do something calming or something that's good for you during this time. It could also bring into light if there is something that you have been avoiding. It could sort of come up now. And also with so much in your eighth house, this could be a time where your intuition gets heightened, or where you feel called to work more on developing your own intuition. And it could also increase your desire or your interest in really diving deep into like metaphysical studies or deep psychological studies, or, you know, those kinds of topics that relate to the eighth house. Anything occult even could be more become more of interest for you now. For Libra, the eclipse happens in your first house of the self, of your individuality, and the solar eclipse took place in your seventh house of relationships and partnerships. So for you, the previous solar eclipse may have surfaced issues around the balance within your relationships. By that I mean the balance between you and your personal desires, and keeping the harmony and the relationship peace, where if you have been feeling like you have been compromising too much, or losing your own integrity, or stepping over your own boundaries in order to keep someone else happy, you might feel like you are becoming fed up with that at this time. It could also be if you have if you have some personal desires, or a new interest or something that have arisen for you or surfaced. You may feel like you are more ready to pursue that, and more a little less willing to compromise with your own desires, perhaps. This could also be a time where you're ready to let go of old versions of yourself, and ready to sort of shed skin, if you will, where you're ready to let old ideas or old beliefs about yourself, who you are, and what you're here to accomplish. You're ready to let those old ideas go and step into something new, something that feels more aligned with who you are at this moment in time. So, and it could also be the eclipses can sort of begin a process of where you're more ready to make time for your own vision, your own ideas, and your own interests. So you're more willing to walk your own path, if you will. And you might also feel like this is like standing at that crossroads where you sense you are going in one of two directions, and perhaps even a bit unsure about which way to go, which path to follow. But the lunar eclipse, or after the lunar eclipse, your emotional attitudes will sort of catch up to this. Your intuition might get more clear. And as Mercury retrograde starts to move forward again, I think you will become more clear about which of those paths you want to follow. So for Scorpio, this happens in your 12th house of dreams, sleep, and isolation. And the solar eclipse took place in your 6th house of health and routines and those things that we do every day. So during the eclipses, it may have been a time of perhaps some restlessness for you, or maybe you've had trouble sleeping even. And it could also be a time where your intuition is more active than usual, or your dream life is more active than usual. And you might also be receiving like intuitive wisdom as you sleep. So it could be a good time to start a dream journal if you're at all interested in that, or if that is something you have been thinking about. That could be a great time for it. But it could also be a good time to work on your intuition, because it might be much more active now with Ketu and Moon in your 12th house. And with the solar eclipse in your 6th house of health and routines, this might have surfaced any instance where you feel like you want to make changes in your health regimen. Perhaps you've been wanting to, start a new health routine, or change something in your diet, or start practicing yoga, or I don't know, something. But now can be a really good time to implement all of those changes. The eclipses could also have surfaced any instance where you haven't been respecting your own boundaries, let's say, where you've perhaps pushed yourself too hard, or not, even though you may have been feeling like, oh, I'm tired and I need some rest, but you have still been pushing yourself too hard, you know? So this can be a time where it's becoming more vital for you to protect your energy and to protect your health, to perhaps make some changes in your routines, or perhaps you feel like making some different priorities so that you can take care of your energy more. The eclipses could also show even if you actually long for more time just for yourself, perhaps in solitude, to sort of reflect and focus on your inner well-being as well. Or you might feel the need for more rest also during this time. For Sagittarius, this takes place in your 11th house of friendships and social circles and community. And the solar eclipse happened in your 5th house of creativity, passion, and even children. So the eclipses may be surfaced for you any instance where either you're not following your path, or you're experiencing a change in your desires. Because the 5th house also deals with what we're really passionate about and what we in our hearts long to do and pursue. So it could also be that you're getting this new vision of something that you want to pursue going forward, and that you a new passion perhaps even, or letting go of something that you previously thought you were passionate about, or that you were passionate about but has that you've lost interest in. And you could also be going through changes in your social life at this time. Perhaps you're changing social circles, or there's some changes going on in your friendships, new friends coming in, or old friendships sort of falling by the wayside. Perhaps you're realizing the true value of your friends, and which of those relationships you are willing to put the effort and priority into moving forward. So the 11th house could also be surfacing, desires that you didn't know that you had, because the 11th house is also those desires we have that we want to share with the world or share with our community. So that is also something that could maybe come into light for you. And if you have children, it could surface any instance where you feel like perhaps you want to spend more time with them, or that you haven't had enough time, or there has been a change in the dynamic of your relationship, perhaps even with so much transformational energy going on in the sign of Aries in your 5th house. So it could also be anything could become more clear for you now as we're moving past the lunar eclipse and as Mercury starts to move forward again. For Capricorn, this happens in your 10th house of career, and the solar eclipse took place in your 4th house of your emotions, your home, and your mother and your close environment. So this could be putting the focus on your home and work-life balance, where you maybe feel like if you've been thinking about making any changes in your career, or where you want to spend more time with your family, or you feel like your home and work-life balance has been off lately, this could sort of surface for you now. And the lunar eclipse might also be quite an emotionally intense time, and you could also have a time right now where you want to put a lot of focus into your home and perhaps make some changes in your home. And it could also be quite an emotionally intense time with the solar eclipse that happened in your 4th house. And all of that will sort of start to settle down a bit for you now as we're moving past the lunar eclipse as well. And you will get more, perhaps your intuition will start to feel a bit more clear, and you will be sort of clear on what your emotional self wants to do and how to proceed. If you have been thinking about making changes in your work, after the lunar eclipse, you might also become more clear on what your heart really desires and what you really want, which path forward you want to take. You might feel like things are or have been slowing down a bit and where nothing is happening, but this can also change for you as Mercury starts to move forward again on May 15th. So I think you will feel more clarity and more decisiveness in what actions you want to take, and if there are any changes either in your work or your home life that you want to make. For Aquarius, this takes place in your 9th house of spirituality and teachings and your philosophy, and the solar eclipse happened in your 3rd house of communication and your interests and your close community. So here there might be something surfacing where you feel like you want to either make some changes in the sort of teachings that you follow, or perhaps you feel like you've outgrown some of those teachings or beliefs that previously you followed. So there could be something changing here, as well as with your interests, with a lot of focus on your third house here. So if the eclipse, the solar eclipse, surfaced any instances where you feel like there's a lot of change happening in your interests and your desires, and what path you want to pursue, this could also become more clear as everything settles down after the lunar eclipse and your emotions sort of start to catch up to everything. This could also mean that you're in the process of finding a lot of new interests or new teachings that inspire you, wherever you're ready to let go of your whatever old beliefs you may have had that no longer resonate with where you are presently. So there could be a lot of reflection and reevaluation of your beliefs and your life philosophy, let's say. It could also mean that you become more careful about what information you take in or what information you seek. For Pisces, this happens in your 8th house of transformation and deep emotions and fears. And the solar eclipse took place in your 2nd house of money and your values. So there might have been a lot of focus on themes of your feeling of security and emotional stability, perhaps even, where there could have been a lot of emotional transformation going on right now. And now you're in this in-between place where, because the lunar eclipse can sort of make everything calm down a little as we're moving out of this eclipse cycle. So your intuition might get more clear, you might intuitively know what to do, and your emotional attitudes might become more clear on what it is that you want to do. You might also be going through changes in your values at this time. Perhaps you're ready to let go of old beliefs that no longer fit who you are or what you currently stand for. Or you might be in the process of transforming, behavioral or emotional patterns when it comes to material security. It could also be a time where you're ready to let go of old values, perhaps even values from your childhood that no longer resonate with what you currently believe. And so this could also be a time where you're having to face a lot of fears and face a lot of emotional insecurities. It could even mean emotional wounds surfacing. And so it could be a very emotionally transformational time for you, but I believe things will start to calm down as we're going out of the eclipse, and even more so when Mercury starts to move forward again on May 15th, though that could mean things calming down a bit for you. So that was it for this update. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please like, share, or comment, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye!